Hello Ratbags, it's Jade. Welcome to a Dayz update video 2020. What has Dayz got in store for you in 2020? If you're a long time viewer of my channel, you'll know I've not played much Dayz in the last few months. I really got a little bit fed up with some of the bugs and the glitches, but it is a game that I just often wish was better running than it is. I know so many of you guys really enjoy it and it was a big shot in the arm from my channel. But nevertheless, there is just a whole host of games that are great but sometimes really buggy, and I tend to leave them alone until I see improvements. Just like I've done for Ark and Conan in the past, Dayz has been on a bit of a hiatus for me. Well, there's a brand new post detailing exactly what's going to be happening in 2020, so I thought we'd go through that and then I'm going to give you my opinions on what's going to be said and what they have planned for the rest of the year. But the exciting thing is there will be more options for server owners. This does not mean modding support for consoles. Let's be clear, any clickbait that's saying that is wrong. I do want to clarify exactly what you will be able to do and what's coming though. So let's go through the post and let's just rattle off very quickly what you can expect and what they kind of focused on in it. And by now you should have seen some timestamps if you just want to skip ahead to the part where I literally lose my shit and have a full-on rant. Basically, they start out with saying that Livonia was a great success, update 1.6 was received well, and the player stats, particularly on Steam, were some of the best they've had in years. December and January managing to hold on to 24,000, 25,000 players. That's huge considering you can see the low points this game has had. And at one point last year they were 4th on Twitch with the amount of streamers that are actually covering the game. Well, they have kind of slipped now, they're not even in the top 80 games. Bearing in mind this is a Sunday evening in the UK, prime time for people watching lots of streaming action. It's clear that Dayz still is a little bit limited and may only have big spikes depending on who's playing it. They also won the category of Better with Friends with the local Steam Awards recently, so they're pretty much happy with a lot of responses they've got. They also do list though that there were big changes to the development team which I reported on last year. Eugene, the guy mostly responsible for getting Dayz to where it was and getting it published on Xbox and the PlayStation, he left. He's now actually working on Dying Light 2. A bunch of others also moved and they were moved around to work on their Infusion technology that will power all of Bohemia Interactive's future titles. Except Vigor, which they chose to use the Unreal Engine. So they pretty much admit they left themselves on Dayz with a much smaller team, and this is something that I criticised last year. This did mean that Dayz launched poorly. It launched in a really rubbish state on the PlayStation and it launched very much out of early access on Xbox in a really poor state, let alone the problems that PC encountered. Hence why there was a big jump when it did come out of early access on PC, but then it quickly lost some steam because it just was still a buggy, broken game. Now over the last year they've had significant updates, big updates adding lots of features, lots of weapons, new vehicles, etc. But overall the general feeling I think I can safely say is there's still many bugs, many issues that have just not been tracked or fixed. We'll get to that in a bit more detail, but they do say that they pretty much, this took a knock-on effect on them having to change people around, and Dayz did suffer the brunt of low development priority. So 2020 though, what have they got going? Well, they're going to say they're going to leave bigger gaps for updates, so there's going to be even bigger between. They were running out usually every quarter, so every 6 to 8 weeks having a big update last year, but that looks like that's going to be changing, so you can expect it every 3 months or so. Although when you think about the version numbers, they managed to get 6 updates out last year pretty much. In fact, they plan to have 5 game updates in 2020, but these updates won't necessarily be huge, they will be still quite smaller. They're going to focus on stability, bug fixing, gameplay improvements along with small scale content. No exact release dates, which I don't mind them doing. Don't announcing something if you're going to keep delaying it. Lots of other games suffer from this, and so I'm glad to see that Dayz and Bohemia are sticking to it. So let's go over what they didn't do very well last year. Stability, you guys know, veterans of Dayz, particularly on console where it is a completely different game, you'll realise how poor stability is, whether it's connecting to servers sometimes, whether it is the matching and shooting that the desync just kicks in and you'll never know if you hit someone correctly because the desync and lag can be so bad. Bug fixing obviously is a huge feature that really detracts from Dayz, and it is why I just don't play it as much. The last update introduced a bunch of bugs to do with inventory manipulation, and they're going to be fixing that in the next one, and several issues with vehicle handling, although that has been reported since last May and still nothing has been done about it. They also want to look at gameplay improvements obviously as well, Base building is going to be a big part of it. They want to reevaluate it and see how it works. At the moment, it's pretty much useless. You can build a base and people can break it down within 20 minutes. Environment factors on the character, so making sure that, you know, getting rained on and snow really adequately affects the character in the right way, and it's not too up and down, it's not too extreme. They want to add more quality of life improvements to cooking, and they want to make sure that the diseases and the symptoms are expanded possibly and worked on to be more balanced and utilised. So that is the 4 big priorities that they want to list off, and definitely I would say that impacts a lot alongside the bugs and of course stability. Now here's the sexy bit for certain people that have their own servers. They're going to unlock the server mission folder for full modifications on console community servers. This should give console server owners total control over the central economy and the ability to add custom locations to existing maps. We release that animation rig in FBX format, blah blah blah, and as teased in their 2019 blog post, they intend to finalise the full implementation of the server browser with full mod support in the official Dayz launcher. If this goes through, this launch update will significantly improve the accessibility to modded servers. So let's clarify something right away. This does not mean we're going to get mods on console. No, it does not. This just simply means you will be able to hopefully increase the loot, decide what type of loot spawns on a map, and add custom locations. So maybe possibly where you spawn, or you may even be able to place items out in the world. Now, if I'm wrong on this, hopefully someone from community will correct me, but the server mission folder, what they've referenced here, and the central economy does not mean modding support. It just simply means you can change and customize some stuff. You can increase how many infected may be spawned on the map. You can increase clusters of fruit and natural resources that may be placeable, or how much fruit it generates. That's the kind of stuff you can do, as like I said, the loot. It does not mean you're going to get all of these mods that you see on PC. They would word it clearly if that was the case. They're kind of really trying to clickbait a little bit here, I feel. Now, if I'm wrong on that, go ahead and correct me. But from everything I've read up on the wiki this morning, today, about it all, we are not getting full mod support on consoles. It is good news for server owners, and I definitely feel like it would be beneficial if you do own your own server. You could build a real community if you want to do events and just fix some of the issues that are there in the game, like loot being hoarded and never been able to get any decent guns and weapons. If you own your own server, you can do this. Obviously, it doesn't affect what happens with official servers where it's the same sort of thing, but nevertheless, it's still something and it's an improvement. Bearing in mind though that servers actually came out in August last year, it's taken this long for them to add this feature. Again, it highlights all the criticism I had last year as pretty much being bang on. Bohemia have just been really slow at doing certain things. They didn't prioritise Dayz, and they pretty much left it while they focused on other projects. Anyway, let's get through the rest of the post before I start venting the spleen. So, while I prioritise stability, bug fixing, improving stuff to keep the game updates interesting enough for both you and us, we tend to mix things up from time to time by adding something new between our bug squashing and system adjusting efforts. We can provide a few examples which you can expect in 2020. More of the original or new firearms into the game. Broken body parts, at last acknowledging that a lot of people want to see broken legs as a feature in the game, something that you actually have to create splints for, as it was part of the original. And the new vehicle Rex and Livonia, they will be added to Chernarus. Now again, this is something that I think should have been there from the start. As soon as it went live on Livonia, it should have been implemented. Okay, finally though, they finish off the post by saying that they've got game update 1.7 coming this February. It's going to be lighter, it's going to be fixes to the inventory as they mentioned, balancing, improvements for the base building, and improvements for nighttime lighting. It will have a new weapon, amusement parks on Chernarus, so maybe a new location, general balancing, bug fixes, and various goodies for our modern community. So, theme park time, yay! But remember, this won't come to console for a good few weeks afterwards unless they do plan to keep trying to update it exactly the same time, like they managed to do with the last update. So, overall, there is definitely, for fans of this game that love playing it and are still playing it, you're going to be happy. You're going to be happy that private servers have got options finally to fix the loot. You're going to be happy that they are bringing still more stuff and that you know you're going to have 5 updates. That's if you take what Bohemia say at face value. Given they pretty much lied to us last year and said that they were fully working on Dayz and that people moving around wouldn't affect development, that was a barefaced lie. They did take people off of Dayz and they put them onto this new technology that powers the engines. Given that at the start last year they were talking about a lot of these options that we're seeing now, like leg breaking, like disease balancing, like base building, still not being really fixed until now or even approached, again it's still a bit of a lie. Where is all the other content? I've pulled out a post and I've actually recorded this video and then I've gone into the comment section afterwards and I've re-recorded some sections you'll see now. Someone has posted some of the stuff that they promised, like helicopters, like trucks supposedly going to be coming into the game eventually. So many features are still not in the game and they're not mentioned for 2020. Now Bohemia may just be wanting to cover their backs. They don't want to announce stuff if they definitely can't deliver it or it's too unstable. But there is so much promise from 2019 and 2018 that just still isn't in the game, and it's not going to be added this year either. They also suggested that the vehicle wrecks that were on Livonia would be in the base game when it launched, and that wasn't the case either. So I'm calling it out. Bohemia are doing what they've always done. They are one of the biggest rip-off merchants going. This game isn't early access anymore. It isn't a case of us supporting something and we've bought it fairly cheap and we want to see how the game develops over time. This is a games company that has experience producing lots of games, that is making lots and lots of money and has made millions, once more lying to its player base, not delivering core features that need to be added, and asking you to have to rent out your own server if you want control of a DayZ experience. What they should have done with this update is say that they're going to add a single player mode. What they should have done with this update is suggest that they're going to reduce the price permanently. That really reflects the state of the game, or at least the state of the game that it should have been. What they should do is address all the other features that are missing and just give it a green, amber or red light and say, look, we can't commit to this year, or yes, we can commit to helicopters, we can commit to new zombie types, etc. Whatever it is they've promised in the past, they have to be held accountable for what they've said, because this game is not early access anymore. It's full price on consoles and on PC. Let me remind you that in the UK, this game was £40 full price when it came out. It may be cheaper on disc, you might be able to pick it up for 20 quid somewhere else, I don't give a shit. But originally, when it came out, it was 40 quid. It was more expensive on the Xbox, around $43.99. One of the biggest PlayStation websites out there gave it a 2 out of 10. And while I didn't think it was that harsh, it certainly didn't live up to the high price point, and the content that was in it certainly didn't really make out to be a full game. So here we go, full ramp mode. DayZ is not worth your time yet. The game may very well be in a really good place. These 5 updates will introduce a bunch of new features, a bunch of new stuff. But from what I am seeing here, reading between the lines, you're going to see less content delivered over longer time periods. More and more they want you just to be using it as a server host so you can have fun with your friends while you're waiting for some new content to be drip fed. Now on PC it's a different kettle of fish. This game is great. With all the mods that are available, you can have real fun finding stuff that people have created. But on console it just doesn't go far enough. If Bohemia had announced that they're going to bring mods, full mod support for Xbox and PlayStation, I would be absolutely singing their praises right now. But nothing they've said in this post fills me with any real sort of confidence that they're going to be doing good things for console players. Yes, it's good that they've got loot adjustments. That doesn't require a huge amount of work. All of these other games that you can rent out on Xbox or the PlayStation, they all allow you to do lots of customizations. You can increase exactly how much loot goes in Ark. You can increase what type of loot goes in there. Atlas the same, even PixArk. Citadel Forge with Fire even has adjustments where you can increase what loot you get. And this is on the developers, not the server hosts, to make happen. Same goes for Conan Exiles with other server providers as well. So we really shouldn't be coming in our pants just because they've managed to increase the loot. This is something that has been available on PC for a long time. So I'm not impressed with DayZ in 2020. It's proved everything I said last year and why I pretty much stopped it. The developers really took the foot off the gas with this. They prioritised other areas, they overcharged people for the release of the game. They dared to bring out paid DLC for a new map when so much of the game was still broken, buggy and not really there. How can you launch out of early access when a big component of your game, base building, is not complete? How can you launch your game when so many bugs and problems and issues with stability are still there? It's exactly what Bohemia have done over the years. It's why they've got such a bad reputation. I've been doing YouTube full time 3 years now covering early access games. There's plenty of games I moan about and there's plenty of good games I do highlight and show how to do things. So many games can't deliver what they promised in early access. It's just beyond them, or they need to get the game out into a wider public, and so releasing it in full release with post content is usually the best way. And that can work. Developers do update their game and do deliver on products. Look at Hunt Showdown, that's delivered a bunch of stuff after release. No Man's Sky, etc. But Bohemia ain't one of them. Bohemia have just been focused on the wrong stuff. They tried adding more content in instead of really looking at the core values of the game, like the base building, and now we're not getting any of the features that they've spoke about for years. Limited, drip fed, it's just a really bit crap. They're in the process right now of shutting down a bunch of servers because the players are already leaving. I announced that news the other day as well. And DayZ is just slipping again. It's not going to gain that big, huge boost that games like Rust and Ark had that managed to keep their players going. Because them games, despite their problems, are much better games overall. That's because developers do eventually try and move the game forward. Bohemia are just still stuck in a time loop of money earning and money grabbing. I guess I'm not going to get that care package now, am I? I don't like being harsh. There's so many games I play that are awful sometimes. Like Ark Survival Evolved, one of the worst games sometimes in terms of how they treat their community and update their game. Conan Exiles has had problems in the past. We've got Citadel Fortress 5 at the moment releasing another roadmap for the rest of the year that I think is pretty light. That's another game that launched at pretty much an expensive price for what it was. There are so many games out there that are really polarising. You love concepts from it, you love aspects of it, but so much of the other stuff is so shit. I love DayZ when you encounter people and when you've got that fear and having to build yourself up until you get to the point where you're like a commando with all the right weapons and attachments, and you don't have to worry about food because you're a hunter. It's great, but there's so much broken with this fucking game, and it just doesn't look like it's going to get much better. I don't believe a single word they've got to say because of all the cutbacks they made last year, because of the way that they fleeced people by charging full price for a game and then charging DLC only a few months later. In defense of other games that have released DLC, at least they update their game more regularly, and at least they are trying to fix it and add lots of free content too. Conan Exiles has updates that add loads of dungeons, new ways to play. Ark adds brand new free maps. What do you get for DayZ on console particularly? Nothing, absolutely zilch. You can't play the game offline on your own, you can't have access to mods, and the only way that you can have some fun is by now renting a server out and by changing a loot pool. Something that should have been in there months ago, not taken like 5 months to implement. So there we go, that's the rant part over. DayZ will not be making a return on my channel, not until I see some significant improvement. I'm tempted to put DayZ in my dead games list. I think by midpoint this year we'll really know how much effort they've put into it, whether or not the updates have gone fixing the game are much better, and overall, is DayZ still worth your time in 2020? The answer is no. If you're playing on PC, you're probably playing Tarkov by now. With Rust coming to Xbox and PlayStation, this is going to just die the minute that game comes out. DayZ is not worth your investment. The company is shoddy, they make shocking decisions, they're not upfront, they pretty much lie to their player base, and they try and get as much money from you as possible. Defamatory remarks, yeah, well, that's what happens when you really don't put the effort into your game. Go ahead, Bohemia, sue me.